Really? Is that what you thought? You thought wrong. Yahweh says, you Roman believers, here's a little hint. If you practice fornication, you deserve to die under the covenant of grace. Isn't Romans, according to Christian theology, the grace, covenant of grace, and the Torah is under the law, legalismo? Well, here, in the covenant of grace, Yahweh says, if you're a fornicator, you deserve to die. Not only you will die, physically, spiritually, or your joy will die, your peace, your shalom will die, your wisdom will die, your purpose will die, your ministry will die. I just love these folks who are chasing ministry. Some of the people listening to my message today on tape, you fall into that category. You're chasing a ministry, you want to be released into Yahweh's service, but you're not willing to give up your fornicating and your temple prostitution, because what makes you a temple prostitute is you're committing fornication, claiming to be part of the Commonwealth of Israel. That makes you a temple prostitute.
That's right. It takes two.
And we laugh when we criticize the pagans who used to have sexual experience as part of their worship. And Yahweh says, don't laugh and don't point fingers. There's four pointing back at you. You're no different.
That's right.
This is a terrible, terrible thing. Sin. This is a terrible sin. It's like cancer. It spreads if it's not cut out and routed out. You show me a lasciviousness spirit, and you know something, when me and Tehillah were discussing this, and Rivitz and Rivka, it came into the camp through one or two people. Now we have to clean up a whole mess. Now we have 8 victims, and I'm sure there'll be more as I start doing my interviews. Oh. Not for me, honey. I wish somebody else would do those. But what am I going to do? I have to obey Yahweh. What am I supposed to do? It's in the camp. And it came in through one person. This wasn't a problem. We didn't have this problem a year and a half ago, did we? Huh? We didn't have this problem 2 years ago. It came into the camp. It's a spirit. Which is why we're not going to bring them back into the camp until they go through deliverance. Amen? They'll try me, Tehillah, you ready? Because you're going to have a whole bunch of deliverances. Not one, you can have them by the dozen. We want victory. We want cleanliness. We want people to have victory. We don't want people just to be put outside the camp to show them we're not happy with them. We want them to have victory. So they're going to come through deliverance and then come back to the camp. Look at this. So those who are engaged in fornication, they know righteousness. They've heard of righteousness, but they continue in that behavior, knowing that those who practice those things deserve death. Listen, not only do the same practices, but notice they approve of those who practice them. Which is why I always watch who your friends are. I really do. And you should watch who my friends are. If you see me hanging out with unbelieving friends and people who hang out until 2 in the morning drinking beer out of a paper bag, please report me. Because I'm not the real McCoy. Forget about me. I may never touch a beer out of a paper bag on a street corner at 2 in the morning. But if you see those are my friends and those are my confidants, that's me. That's me. Birds of a feather do flock together. And if you don't like to be associated with those birds, you need to back off those birds and separate yourself from those people. Watch this. Look at the end of verse 32. Those who practice such deserve death. Not only do they practice fornication, but they actually approve those who practice, and they'll find those people. And pretty soon, there'll be 3 people fornicating, 4 people fornicating, 5 people fornicating. So if you've got a girlfriend who fornicates, you can be sure she's got other friends that are fornicating. You know why? Because this sin dies when it's isolated. Which is why we put people outside the camp. They can't infect other people. Do you understand what I'm saying? That sin dies when it's put outside the camp. And if it's going to infect, if it's going to insist on infecting other people, let it infect the world, which is already infected, and not the children of Yahweh.
Yes.
Does this make any sense? Because we know sin dies when it's isolated. So why did Yahweh prescribe the quarantining of the unclean and the quarantining of the sinner? To isolate the sin so that it can die, even the leprosy. So that the leprosy can be cleansed outside the camp, and then after cleansing, after it dies, because leprosy in order to survive needs what?
What does it need?
Needs other people, doesn't it? It needs other victims, doesn't it?
Yes.
Same with fornication. Leprosy is a type of sin, fornication. How do we eliminate leprosy? You put it outside the camp, it isolates, and eventually it disappears, or the person dies and takes leprosy to the grave. Right? But it can't affect the camp of Israel, right? Same thing with sin. But sin is worse, because sin doesn't just bring physical death to your skin, lasciviousness, it brings spiritual death, physical death, confusion, every evil work. Every evil work. You think people that are living in fornication have their Torah verses right, have their head straight? They're confused. They're confused. They don't know who is loving and who's not loving. They don't know who cares, who doesn't care. They don't know who is a victim and who's a perpetrator. Their sense of reasoning is gone. Boy, I'm preaching good today. No wonder the place is empty. That's haunted me for 15 years. My best sermons are given in front of small groups. I don't know why. But anyway, Baruch Hashem Yahweh. So think about it. A person who's living in fornication, who's living an unrighteous lifestyle of sexual immorality, their reasoning's gone, man. When you're loving, they accuse you of being mean. When you're being firm, they accuse you of being outside the spirit. They can't think straight anymore. Up is down, bitter is sweet. And what did Yeshayahu say? Woe to those who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Hallelujah. Who call evil Tov and Tov evil.
Hallelujah. They're all screwed up.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Look at verse 32. So those who practice these things approve of others who practice these things, meaning fornicators must hook up with other fornicators because they're not going to go to the people who are living set apart. They're going to go to the people who are already in death. Are you on? Are we on? Are we going anywhere with this? They're going to seek out other people that are, I hope I'm not offending anybody. That's not my intention. But this is the truth.
Takes a will and a party.
Because sexual relations outside of covenant, the covenant of blessed, sacred, set-apart marriage, matrimony, is an abomination to Yahweh. It misrepresents Yahweh. And Yahweh will target those individuals for some kind of death. Let's hope it's not physical. Let's hope it's only spiritual, so we can repent. But you're targeted for death. Because not only you're doing it, you're seeking others who practice these things so that the yeast could leaven others and so that the whole lump can be leavened. Do you understand? I pray that you do. But a lot of folks who are involved in fornication, they're looking for ministry. Do you ever meet someone who has a secret life of fornication and they're looking to do ministry? I just ran into it again recently.
Your blessing.
Oh, please send me out, brother. Release me. Release me with a bracha. Give me a brach. Release me with a bracha. I'm ready. I'm ready to go out. 1 Corinthians 5:1. 1 Corinthians 5:1. We go quickly. Yahweh's showing me there are people that are getting this by videotape. We're going to share this with their friends and get victory. This has got to stop. You cannot grow into the person Yahweh wants you to be without this behavior stopping. And if you're not going to stop it, no problem. Yahweh will stop you. Trust me. He will not allow you to be a temple prostitute and to violate His word, His set-apartness, His sanctity. Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu! People don't like when I shout, but I can't stop.
Yes. Let him have his way.
Moshe Rabbeinu, who wrote the Torah, couldn't enter the promised land. Why? Because he lost his temper? Wrong. He misrepresented Yahweh. The rock was Yeshua, who was smitten once. Yeshua said no. The rock is smitten twice. 1 Corinthians 10:4. The rock was and is Moshiach, and he couldn't enter Eretz Zavat Chalav Udavash because when you misrepresent Yahweh, when you fornicate with someone else, you know what you're saying? Yahweh mixes the clean with the unclean. He mixes the set apart with that which is not set apart. Yahweh said, I will kill you.
He's not sufficient.
You listen very carefully. Listen very carefully. The world may think it's cool. MTV may encourage it. Okay? The Bravo channel, A&E, Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, they may encourage it. But I'm telling you the truth. If you're in the temple and you're defiling your body in fornication, I prophesy to you in the name of Yahweh will kill you. It's just a matter of how. At best, he'll kill your joy, your spirit, your purpose, your vision, and you'll be a very confused, sentimental puppy that has no direction of right and wrong. And you get all bent out of shape. Emotions come, doctrines come, winds of doctrine, winds of emotions, and now you're led by your feelings and not by thus saith Yahweh.
No satisfaction.
We must be led by thus saith Yahweh. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. And so even if Yahweh is loving and merciful to you, which he is, what good is it to have your shalom destroyed? Or your joy killed? Who wants to be a killjoy? Who wants to serve a heavenly Father who is a killjoy? But you will experience some kind of death, or else Yahweh doesn't exist. If Yahweh doesn't judge those who practice these things as temple prostitutes, and that sounds very crude, doesn't it? That sounds very crude. But what is the definition of temple prostitution? It's taking the spiritual matters and mixing it with carnal matters. Isn't that the definition? And Ephraim was there, and they no longer need to be there. That's what got you guys in trouble in the first place. We started to talk, and you interrupted me. Now I'm going to try to pick up my trend of thought. Well, brother, I know them above it. Bunch of unsaved Jewish heathen. They need Christ. Come on. They don't believe in Moshiach. Oh, those poor Jewish boys. Pray for them Jews. Talk to me, somebody. Wake up, little Susie. Wake up. So they don't have any Susies here. They can go home and say I was preaching about them. Did you ever go home and you were sure? You were 100% sure that the rabbi was preaching right at you. I'm not coming back. Why? Why? He wasn't preaching for the welfare of the community. No. He was preaching at me, and I don't appreciate it. Did it ever occur to you I'm preaching at 30 people and we all got pretty much the same problem? Now, I get tempted sexually, but I know how to handle it. And no one's going to tell me that masturbation is equal to sexual intercourse. Not in my theology or anybody who wrote the Bible's theology. Only in that Sunday system and other systems. So I know how to handle temptation. I'm tempted. Yeshua was tempted. How did he handle it? He didn't give in to it. He might have thought about it, but he didn't give in to it. So who's spiritual? Both believers who are thinking about it, or the one who thinks and doesn't act, as opposed to the one who thinks and acts? Which one is the overcomer? The one who doesn't follow through on his thoughts.
Amen.
You are the conqueror. You are the victor. Amen. Thank you, Bert. Did you taint this water? No, it's cool. I mean, it's cool, but it's cool. No, but I mean, is it cool? I mean, it's not tainted with Kool-Aid. Like, no cyanide. No cyanide, no Kool-Aid. This didn't come from Guyana and Reverend Jim Jones. This came from Miami Beach. Oh, thank you.
Drink, Rabbi, drink.
Remember that guy? He was a nice pastor gone bad. Something happened to that boy. Thank you. It's a deceiving spirit. It's a spirit of death. That's exactly right. You know, thank you. You know how Jim Jones got started? Fornicating.
Big time.
And pretty soon he had hundreds killing at his order, drinking Kool-Aid.
Children.
But there's no Kool-Aid in here. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. It's a spirit of death. People say, but it feels good. Right on. Don't stop now. Don't let me stop you. Because Yahweh will. I don't have to stop you. But if I see it, I will put it outside. I will quarantine it. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Okay, 1 Corinthians 5:1. It's commonly reported that there is whoring among you, meaning common. It was widespread in the Kehillah, in Corinth. And such whoring as it is, not even named among the Gentiles. Two things this proves. The Corinthians were not saved Gentiles. They were Israelites. And he's saying, pero you're behaving like Gentiles. You see the difference? He's saying you're Israel, but the kind of behavior you're exhibiting, i.e. sexual activity outside of the covenant of marriage, is a Gentile experience. It is a Gentile behavior. You see what you're saying? So, well, brother, I have my head covered. Or I have TT. Wonderful. That is a manifestation that in our lives we're still Gentiles. Does this make sense? So when we fornicate outside the covenant of marriage, sexual immorality outside the covenant of marriage, we're showing the world that we don't practice what we preach. We claim to be Ephraim and Yehuda, but unlike the Mishpat of Mishlei, Maseh Shlichim 15, we have not abstained ourselves completely from fornication. So we're Israel with the head covering, but in our heart we remain Gentiles. So those who fornicate show that they're not ready to adopt the Israelite lifestyle and its obligations. They show that. They're not ready to adopt the full obligations and lifestyle of Israel. So you need to repent. Don't seek it. I miss it. I liked it. It felt great. I felt in love and I felt cared for the third time in the last 4 weeks. Or for the first time in my life. So chasing that doesn't mean that you repented. Repented means I'm thankful I'm out of it. I'm an Israelite and I'm not going to live like a Gentile. He said, you Corinthians, don't talk Israel and live like the Goyim. This proves that Rav Shul considered the Kehillah that he planted to be Yisrael. Because he compared righteous living to Yisrael and unrighteous living to the Goyim. So being Israel does not mean knowing the two-house truth, the true-house theology. It means knowing it and living it. And when you had an experience of fornication, realizing that it's not something to ever go back to. Yahweh says, you go back, I will kill you. Don't ask me how, but Yahweh says, I'm sovereign. Does this make sense? Yes. And we say, oh, sure, Yahweh will kill you. Sure. Well, just ask Eli. He let his 2 sons fornicate in the house of Yahweh. What happened? Both sons died. And they were the son of a rabbi.
Yeah.
And Eli kept eating. He got so stressed out over his kids that he kept popping Kit Kats down his throat.
Fell backwards.
And that's what I mean. And eventually, he got so obese and ugly fat. I'm talking about ugly fat. That he keeled over his stool, broke his neck, and died. Well, but he was a priest.
Condoned it.
And why did Yahweh allow Eli to die and the sons of Eli? He allowed temple prostitution. If I didn't do this, brothers and sisters, what different am I than a hireling? What different am I? It is temple prostitution. That's exactly, it sounds ugly because it is ugly. We're not prostituting in the ghetto or in the hood. We're prostituting in the temple. We're bringing that stuff into the temple. It shouldn't be like that. Yahweh has to show us to live right. If you sow to the flesh, you will reap death. If you sow to the spirit, ruach, you will reap life and that everlasting. What do you want to reap?
Life.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Now look at verse 2, 1 Corinthians 5:2. You have been puffed up by your emotions, and you did not mourn so that he who has done this deed is removed from among you. Hello? You have not desired the removal of such an individual. Rather, you become puffed up, saying, they're getting away with it. What's the big deal? Well, Rabbi, you just don't understand the young folks today. They're just young folks, and boys will be boys. You don't know what the young folks are going through. Excuse me. I was 13. I was 12. And I didn't do that stuff by Yahweh's grace. Of course I know what young folks are going through. Yahweh knows what young folks are going through. So Yahweh says, instead of being puffed up, thinking that this is cool, and it's not a big deal, he said you ought to be sitting Shiva.
Yeah.
Mourning, sitting Shiva.
Yeah.
Are we sitting Shiva because our brothers and sisters have fornicated? Are we angry at the leadership for taking discipline? That in itself will show your motive.
That's right. Yes. 8.
We ought to be mourning those who have done this, that they have fallen into this. And and mourn, truly mourning, desiring the leaven to be removed. If we love the body of Yeshua, the people of Israel, the commonwealth of renewed covenant Israel, we will rejoice when these things are removed, so they can be healed and we can be protected.
Come on.
They can be healed and we can be protected.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh.
So the sister that was being disciplined asked me, where's the love? Meaning, didn't Yeshua say to the woman, go and sin no more? Yeah, but she was not a believer. So that's why people don't like Rav Shaul, by the way, because he writes discipline in the community. They love Yeshua because he's forgiving everybody. Why? He doesn't have to discipline anybody. He's soon to be raised from the dead. He leaves the discipline to the shepherds, to the schmohawks like me, so that we can become the targets of abuse and gossip and slander. Yeshua's out of the picture. The physical Yeshua, that is. He's in the picture through his ruach. Amen? Baruch Hashem Yahweh. So Rav Shaul, I don't like Rav Shaul. Why? Because he said, throw out the fornicators, throw out the slanderers, live righteously, declare righteousness, obey righteousness, walk righteousness, live righteous. So we're easy to dump on him because he was like, this really mean apostle to the Gentiles. Of course, we know he was an apostle to Ephraim. He wasn't an apostle to any Gentiles. He was an apostle to the nations. Who filled the nations? Genesis 48:19. The Melo HaGoyim, the fullness of the Gentiles, were the seed of Ephraim. But we love Yeshua because all we see Yeshua doing, you're forgiven, you're forgiven, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. So he doesn't deal with congregational discipline. He leaves that to the Shlichim, the Nevi'im, and the Morim. And boy, this really, I don't want to use the word, so I'm not going to use the word. It really, S-U, and you know the rest. This is torture. Rivka's not sleeping at night. I'm not happy. These are my friends. These are people that have a bright future in ministry. These are not just somebody. These are people who work with me, who make my tapes, come to my house. So I become the fall guy. That's fine. Because guess what? I'm going to stand before Yahweh one day. That's okay. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. But so Yeshua is just forgiving everybody, and the overseers are the one getting the heat. So fornication is a sign that a believer is behaving like a Gentile in their heart and not an Israelite. Scroll down, stay in 1 Corinthians 5 while we're there, to verse 9. 1 Corinthians 5:9. I wrote to you in my letter not to keep company with those who fornicate, whore. I certainly do not mean with those of this world who whore, or with the greedy of gain, or swindlers, or idolaters. Then you need to go out of the world. Amen? But now I have written to you not to keep company. Well, how about a phone call? Not to keep company. How about an email? No. Ay, ay, ay. How about a chat room? How about lunch? Yahweh says in 1 Corinthians 5:11, don't keep company with anyone called a brother. Called, notice? He's an Israelite. He's called a brother, but he's not living like a brother. Hello? Called a brother if he is a fornicator, greedy of gain, idolater, reviler, drunkard, swindler, not even to eat. Pardon me. Not even to eat with such a one. For what have I had to do with judging MTV and the other networks and Sports Illustrated? Do you not judge those who are inside the community of Israel? Elohim judges those who are outside. Put away the wicked ones from among you. See? You see that? Put away, but we can't do that, Ralph. We just can't. We just can't do that. Fine. Then you will see your congregation. Let me share something. Can we talk?
Let's talk.
If I did not do this, because these folks were up here ministering, and I'm not talking behind their back, they'll come up and confess in front of you what they were doing. Okay? If I didn't do this, there would be no more congregation. Yahweh would take it away from me, He was saying, I told you, I didn't even have to tell you. My word told you what my word. Forget about hearing voices. Okay, I like hearing voices from Yahweh. Forget about hearing voices. My word told you what to do, you didn't do it. In other words, if I did not do this, or even do it more in the future, Yahweh forbid that it happens, He will close this congregation. There will be no congregation. What's the sense? There's no debate here. By doing this, we stay in Yahweh's chesed and in His righteousness. By not doing it, He will close the doors anyway.
You'll fall off your log backwards.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Let's read verse 9. A very heavy scripture. Turn to your neighbor and say, very heavy. 1 Corinthians 6:9. Do you not know that the unrighteous shall not, listen and I'm listening, not just preaching, and you're going to say to me, Rabbi, most of the people who need this message may not be here today, and I could assure you I will send them tapes, okay? I can assure you I will send them tapes. Yeah, we're all tempted. That's true. We all need it, we're all tempted, but...
Or a brother, too.
Correct. We may know others, correct, but we will make sure those folks do get the tape. Now watch this. 1 Corinthians 6:9. Do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the reign of Elohim? Notice, not the Malchut HaShamayim, which is everybody, but the Malchut of Yahweh. Remember we talked about the difference between the Malchut of Yahweh and the Malchut HaShamayim? Remember? Get the tape if you don't. The unrighteous will not inherit the reign of Elohim. Don't be deceived. None or neither those who whore or are idolaters or adulterers, effeminate, homosexuals, thieves, greedy of gain, drunkards, revilers, swindlers, none of them will inherit the kingdom of Yahweh.
These are called brothers.
So you could say, well, Yahweh understands, I'm only 18. Yahweh understands, I haven't had a man in 40 years. I want you to understand one thing. You will not inherit the kingdom of it. You're deceived. You're deceived. This is not a joke. I don't come to you preaching my own words. I'm come to you preaching His word. This is not a joke. I didn't like the message. That's not the issue. I did like the message. That also is not the issue. This is not a joke. Don't be, and that kind of sin has a habit of deceiving us, doesn't it? We think we're okay and we're not. It's deceptive. Fornicators will not, any kind of sex outside of marriage will not inherit the kingdom. By fellowshipping with other fornicators, you and I run the risk of being overcome and not inheriting the kingdom. If that doesn't scare you, then you're not saved. Wouldn't a saved person be frightened not to inherit the kingdom of Yahweh? Now the good news is you're one prayer away and one lifestyle change from changing. You pray, you ask Yahweh for forgiveness through the blood of His Son, and you stop the behavior, and you reverse course. You understand? But some people don't want to stop until they get caught. I had people tell me they couldn't stop. They knew it was wrong. They knew it was wicked. They knew it was they couldn't stop. That's why it's bondage. If you're overcome, if a behavior is controlling you, it is bondage.